Good day to you all, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to Mataz Rising Television Network. My name is Dada. Mataz Rising Network is one where we discuss current affairs issues as it affects Nigerians, Africans, Black people, both at home and in the diaspora. We discuss political, economic, cultural, religious, entertainment, and sports issues. And where we have problems, we endeavor to provide solutions. One of the ways in achieving this is to invite guests to come on our show. Today we bring to you an august guest, one which I cannot wait to introduce to you all. However, you have to wait until after the short break. Welcome back, and here we are. I'm honored, I'm excited to introduce to you a personality that is well known across the world, in Yoruba land, in Igbo land, in Hausa land, in Nigeria, in Africa. He is a Democrat, he's an administrator, he's a banker. He was a secretary to the federal government and a finance minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is none other than Chief Samuel Oluyemisi Falae, CFR. Sir, many people know you as Olufalae. However, those who are very close to you call you Yemisi. Some call you Yemi, and some simply call you Olu. Why is this, sir?
Oluyemi Falae, not Oluyemisi. Oluyemisi slipped into my CV through a careless secretary of mine many years ago. And since then, I've been trying to get it out of my CV. I've not succeeded completely. So I repeat again, my name is Oluyemi Falae. And as you said, I've been in politics, but I'm now retired from partisan politics, absolutely and completely. But I remain interested in the politics of Nigeria as long as I live, because I had given the prime period of my life in service to this country. And so I cannot be disinterested in what happens to Nigeria. I'm now in retirement. I'm doing some farming here in Akure. And I'm also the Olu of Iluabo for the past, I've been Olu of Iluabo for the past 37 years. This is an aspect of my career which most people don't know much about, because I've been based in Lagos for most of the time, involved in partisan politics and banking and civil service and all that. But now I spend more time addressing the problems of my people in the Iluabo community, as well as on my farm. And again, I do try to spend more time with my family. So these are my new priorities. And I thank God that we live here in relative peace in Akure, unlike the rest of Nigeria.
Chief, once again, I thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation to come on this show. It is actually the inaugural one, and I would not change anything for the world in having you to be with us here today, sir. We really appreciate you. Yes, sir. It's been a long ride since President Muhammadu Buhari took the reins of power from President Jonathan, promising Nigerians change for the better economically, politically, medically, and improving the security of the country. However, less than a year left in his second term, the country has gone from bad to worse. Sir, how do you rate this administration?
Just as you rate this administration, you have said that things have gone from bad to worse 4 times over. That's what it is. It's unfortunate because I was, for a time, a strong supporter of General Buhari. When, like others, I thought he was going to get the military discipline and training to give our nation a new direction. But on assumption of office, he has disappointed me and many, many people. Particularly in the area where we expected him to be most effective, which is security. At the beginning of his regime, well, he made the right moves, made the right noises, by moving the unit in charge of Boko Haram to the northeast, to the theater. But unfortunately, not much happened. In fact, on the contrary, violence has increased. More violent groups have emerged in his watch. We now hear about ISWAP, we hear about bandits, we hear about terrorists, we hear about herdsmen who kidnap and murder people. These were not known before he came on board. And so you begin to wonder what really happened. We expected an improvement, but the situation has worsened considerably. And recently, here in Owo, some terrorists went into a Catholic church on Sunday and killed, I think, 34, 35 people. I was there, I've seen the church. It's a horrible sight to behold. This is where we are, after 7 years of a military officer as president of Nigeria. If you look at the economic area, it is even, if anything, can be worse than the security situation. It's unbelievable. The level of borrowing both at home and abroad is frightening. The World Bank has said that Nigeria's economy is going to be stressed. We are going to suffer economic distress because we have overborrowed. And the government itself has said that they will be spending about 90% of future revenue on debt service. Now you begin to wonder whether government can afford to carry out all its responsibilities with 10% of the revenue. And on the external front, the sums we are borrowing in dollars are rising every day. And since we are borrowing in dollars and dollars appreciating against naira, the amount of naira we're going to use to service the debt is going to increase exponentially in the future. So both in political terms, in security terms, in financial and economic terms, the situation has worsened considerably. We are really in trouble. We are in difficulty. So the question is, what is next?
Thank you so very much for that, sir.
People are talking of running for president. Candidates are emerging. But it is a strange thing that in Nigeria, which is in such a serious economic and security position, those who want to govern have not even done us the favor of letting us know what they intend to do. Nothing at all. So this is a very frightening thing. And I begin to wonder what sort of government whoever wins the election is going to run. Even I wonder whether the terrorists and agents of violence will allow us to have an election at all. Because what sort of election can we have where terrorists of all kinds are operating across the country? Can we have an election that will be a true reflection of the preferences and choices of the people? These are questions that Nigerians will need to answer. We are really at the crossroads. But if you ask me, what should we do? To every problem, there's a solution. I learned in school that the ultimate solution to every problem which appears insoluble is for you to abandon the objective you are trying to achieve. We will not abandon Nigeria, but we need a game changer. We must reinvent Nigeria so that a new game can start. How do we reinvent Nigeria? The constitution which we have been operating for more than 60 years, especially since 1966, has been the source of our problem. And until and unless we scrap that constitution and go back to the fundamentals of the independence constitution, we are not going to succeed. Because before independence, our leaders went to Britain several times to negotiate independence with them and to negotiate an independence constitution. And in that process, they managed to cobble together certain fundamental principles, which I describe as the political covenant on which Nigeria's independent constitution was based. And central to that covenant was a true federation in which the nationalities and the peoples of Nigeria in their regions had residual powers, in which you only had things that are by their very nature centrally implemented, assigned to the federal government, like policing, central banking, immigration, foreign policy. And other matters were left to the regions where the people resided. But the present constitution has turned the whole thing upside down. And those who hold power want it to remain so. I take an example. From the times of Aristotle and Plato, government has always had the power to make laws for people. It is an inherent power of government to make laws, regulations, or bylaws. Also inherent in the very act of government is the power to implement and enforce the laws, regulations, and bylaws made. In our own strange constitution, the framers made policing, the power to enforce laws and regulations, the exclusive preserve of the federal government, one government out of three. But all three levels of government make laws, bylaws, regulations that need to be implemented and enforced. But you gave monopoly of enforcement to only one level. That was done maybe out of ignorance, or because some people wanted to make the federal government the owners of Nigeria. Because how can I make laws as a state assembly and we have no power to create a police force to enforce those laws? And yet we are held responsible for governing the state. It doesn't make sense at all. So there should be no debate whatsoever that security and enforcement of law should be the responsibility of federal, state, and local government police forces. When I was a child in this town, in Akure here, I knew of 3 police forces, not one. The Nigerian police force, yes. The regional police force, headed by Baba Omito Oju, and the Akure Native Authority Police, headed by Adeleke. I knew 3 police forces in the 1940s and 50s. The British were no fools who made that arrangement, because they knew that Nigeria is a highly heterogeneous society, complex, different in custom and worldview and aspirations, could not be managed as a unitary state. It could only be managed as a federation where every level of government could make laws and enforce them. But what has happened? We have abolished the two other levels of policing and give the monopoly of policing to the federal government. It's absolute nonsense. In fact, when the Ondo State House of Assembly was holding a public hearing on the establishment of Amotekun, I went there to give them enlightenment and encouragement. I told them that they didn't need to go to Malami, the Federal Attorney General, for permission to set up Amotekun to enforce laws made by this state. Because, as I said, and I say it again, the power to make laws is inherent in government, federal, state, local. And that in any case, as we speak, state governments make laws for the enforcement of laws in their respective areas. In different, for example, in the north, you have the Hisbah. Hisbah is an organization for enforcing Sharia laws. They have three powers: power to arrest, to detain, and prosecute. No police force anywhere in the world has more than those three powers. Those are the three powers that define a police force. And state governments in the north have passed the law to create Hisbah and give it those police powers. So they've created a police organization. So I told our people that you need to have the same power to create an organization. We may not call it police, but give this organization those three police powers: to arrest, to detain, and to prosecute. If you don't want to prosecute, send suspects to the state Ministry of Justice for prosecution. It is the same state government that has empowered justice to prosecute. So the state government has the power to arrest, to detain, and prosecute. You don't need any constitutional amendment to create such an organization, then and now. But out of ignorance, we are still debating and arguing about state police. To me, if I were head of a state, I will create an organization through the state assembly and give that organization the three powers that the police need: power to arrest, to detain, prosecute. Which, by the way, the forest guards in all the states have. That's the forestry law in every state. It's passed by the state assembly. The forest guards can arrest, detain, and prosecute. It's a police organization. So, all in all I'm saying is that unless and until we return to these fundamentals, security will continue to be our problem. And if you don't solve the security problem, you cannot solve any other problem. If I can't go out of my house without fear of being assassinated or killed, can I go and work in a factory? Can I go to a farm to work? Can I go to school? So it's fundamental. And as long as we are digging in and refusing to be reasonable, so long will our problems remain. So Buhari failed because he believes that policing should be the monopoly of the federal government, without realizing that fundamentally that is impossible in a country the size and complexity of Nigeria. So that's where we are. But until we create a new constitution, we'll restructure Nigeria, and then that will be a game changer. Then Nigeria will start afresh on a new slate, on a clean slate. If you don't do that, you continue with the same constitution, the same lack of reality, you get the same results. Do the same thing all over again, you get the same result. So I'm really frightened about 2023.
Chief, you are one of the high-profile Nigerians of Yoruba extraction that was first attacked on his farm in September 2016 by Fulani herdsmen, bandits, and terrorists. Your cries and warnings were ignored. Since then, we have had many high-profile attacks where people were killed, maimed by these Fulani jihadist terrorists, including the Ibarakwa attack, the murder of Afenifere Chieftain, Pa Ruben Fashoran's daughter, Olufunke Olakuri, and the Owo massacre, which is the latest dastardly act in Yoruba land. Sir, what do you think the federal government under the president is doing about this, if anything?
Well, again, you provided the answer. One wonders what they are really doing about it. I think the federal government has been treating these terrorists or insurgency actions with kid gloves. I remember when, in fairness to start with, when I was kidnapped on my 77th birthday, 21st September 2015, the president ordered the Inspector General of Police to come here to Ondo State and fish me out. So the IG came here, but it was not he who fished me out. I got out from the clutches of the kidnappers when we agreed to pay a ransom. We then negotiated with my family on the phone. But thereafter, many atrocities have gone uninvestigated. Very few terrorists have been arrested and tried. It was only a few days ago that the courts delivered judgment in the assassination of Funke Olakunri, my brother-in-law's sister, who was assassinated 3 years ago on her way to Lagos. Even though the suspects were arrested at the time, it's taken 3 years to get justice. So that tells you that the federal government has not done as much as it should do. But the real answer is to allow security and policing to be done on a decentralized basis. It's not, the question is not to increase the size of Nigerian police and then let them, no. The central control will impede the efficiency of a centrally managed organization. What we need is for each level of government to have its own police force, no security apparatus. So that is what is needed. This is what they are not ready to let go. Now, so the federal government, as long as the present situation is not changed, they are not likely to achieve much of success in controlling security. That's the truth of the matter. Today we are at war. Bandits are shooting down planes. They are derailing trains and kidnapping people and negotiating with government, presumably from a base within Nigeria. Surprised that such a base has not been identified and destroyed. We are more or less now talking to a local ISIS. Maybe they have their own government in the bush, where they dictate terms to negotiators in Nigeria, our country. So I'm afraid we have to change the security architecture through the establishment of police forces at all levels of government, federal, state, and local government. That's the answer.
Thank you, sir, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you from where we stopped when we come back from this short break. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back to Matters Arising with Dada. And we have here as our guest, bearing his mind, his wisdom with us, Chief Falae. Chief, why is the federal government fighting insecurity with levity?
Well, I think is fighting it with as much competence as is fighting other problems in other areas of life. Unemployment, poverty, poor health conditions. It's the same man operating in these areas. I see the same lack of effectiveness in all areas. My personal view is that for a man to run Nigeria with effectiveness, there are certain qualifications he needs, both educational, intellectual, etc. Because with the health challenges of President Buhari for several years and his limitations as a person, I'm not surprised that he's not been able to govern more effectively than he has done. Even with the best man in his own prime, it's going to take a lot of effort to be on top of the job. Because as former secretary to the government, I'm aware of the amount of work that needs to be done, the paperwork, the meetings, the consultations that we have to go through to be able to have a grip on what is going on. I don't think General Buhari has what it takes really to have a grip and maintain his grip on running Nigeria. That's my opinion. And as I said, if we want to make much of a difference, we must begin again. We must begin afresh by scrapping this constitution and launching a new constitution. That will not take forever because at the 2014 National Conference, of which I was a delegate, we passed more than 600 resolutions by consensus. By consensus. And I doubt whether Nigerians can get together again and reach consensus on as many issues as we did. And I believe the only way to govern Nigeria is through consensus. Because we are many, we are heterogeneous, and therefore it is that which most of us will agree with that should be used to govern us. So, and while that conference was going on, as the decisions are being taken, we had a group of lawyers who are drafting a new constitution based on the decisions. So today as we speak, there's a draft constitution, I have a copy here, that came out of that conference. All Nigeria needs to take that document as a working document. And in 6 months, you can fashion out a new constitution that will meet most of the aspirations of every part of Nigeria. That is what is required. That is what must happen if we are to have peace and progress.
So, sir, what are your thoughts on the Igboho's movement in fighting insecurity in Yoruba land, considering that the federal government seems to not be willing to secure the lives and properties of Yoruba people, or maybe they're just incompetent or incapable? What are your thoughts, sir?
Igboho, what he was saying and doing was what most Yoruba people had in their mind. It was humiliating, intimidating to be in your farm and some houseman comes in, brings his cattle to start eating your maize and your cassava, and you object and slashes the cuts off your hand in your own home. That's what was happening in the Igboho area. And Sunday Igboho said this must not be the case. He was saying and doing what most of us believe was right, to be said and done. But what I will not support is that you, in fighting a battle, you do so while you have relative advantage. the federal government has relative advantage in violence. The police, the army, security, and all that. The battle to be fought should not be in terms of guns. We demonstrated that during the Nadeko period. I was in the forefront of the Nadeko struggle. I was treasurer of Nadeko. My house in Victoria Island was the meeting point of Nadeko. After Admiral Ndubisi Kanu, in whose house we were meeting, told us one evening that he could no longer host us because the government had called him and told him that the contract he was executing for NNPC by using his boats to carry products to Lagos would be cancelled if he continued to collaborate with Nadeko. So from that moment on, I started hosting Nadeko in my house in Victoria Island, Lagos, apart from being the treasurer of Nadeko. So when it came to a point where Abacha was going to ban Nadeko to criminalize our protest, we got advance information. And we heard this, when I say we are no more than 5, had a strategic meeting that afternoon when we got the information, and we decided to take the struggle abroad. That if we stayed here, Abacha will kill us. He had relative advantage here, power of coercion, elimination. But if we went abroad, where refinement and logical arguments would matter, we'll have a chance of beating him. So we decided to send 2 of our members out of Nigeria that same night. We contributed money, we bought tickets for them, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi and Air Commodore Dan Suleiman. We sent them abroad that same night. And when they got there, they started the campaign that led eventually to Nigeria being declared a pariah state. The freezing of the accounts of members of Abacha's government, etc., etc. Eventually, you know what happened. So what I'm saying is that when you are fighting a battle, you choose your theater. Ensure that to fight where you have relative advantage, where your opponent has a weakness. Of course, what happened abroad, Nigeria's foreign minister went to the Commonwealth heads of government meeting and abused them. Of course, they dealt with Nigeria. That was what we hoped would happen. It happened. And they declared Nigeria a pariah state. If we all hung around Lagos and Abuja, we would not have achieved that. We use our intellectual capacity to strategize and choose our theater. And we won in that theater. Similarly, those Igboho was saying and doing the right thing. I don't think he was organizing people to riot. He knows he hasn't got the strength to fight the federal government in battle. We don't want any battle. But we fight this thing where we have relative strength. I've just mentioned to you how this thing could be done. What we want is to have the opportunity to be ourselves in Nigeria, the Yoruba people. We are not looking for any special treatment, undeserved privilege. All we are asking for is a fair chance to be ourselves, to be able to pursue our priorities in accordance with our values, and to move at our own pace. That is all we're asking for. And we think we can achieve that in a constitution similar to what we had at independence. That's what we're talking about, structuring and a new constitution. That's what will enable all communities in Nigeria to be themselves. And we, the Yorubas, will be able to excel in that situation. So the fight, Igboho was right, that people should not be intimidated and killed in their farms, and that the Fulani had no right to take over their land. I too have insisted here that no Fulani can take 1 inch of my farm. They kidnapped me, they macheted me, they burnt my farm several times. At some point, my people said, Baba, you are very precious to us. Please give up this farm. And I said, the man will die in me if I give up my farm because of Fulani threat in my own home. I said, my grandfather or great-grandfather was one of those who fought in the Kiriji War. And that some died, some remained. Babaku, Babaku. Therefore, we must, that's what the boy was saying, our home, we must be safe in our home. Invaders must be prevented from intimidating us in our home. They must return to where they came from. So, that he was treated like a criminal, invaded his house in the night and declared him as a terrorist. It was most unfortunate. There was nothing was saying that most of us have not been saying and will not continue to say. Because we are not trying to intimidate others, we are not trying to take over the property or territory of other people. We will resist other people taking over our property. All kinds of moves have been made, even at the governmental level, to nationalize all the rivers of Nigeria. What does that mean? It means the federal government will control the water that passes through my farm. In a federation, cattle colony on my territory. Those are provocations that people like Igboho, being a young man, were reacting to. They are provocations that were totally unnecessary and cannot happen. So I think this struggle must continue until Nigeria returns to the political covenant negotiated and agreed in London before independence. That covenant has at its core the independence and autonomy of the ethnic communities in Nigeria. The federal government has not created us. We, the peoples of Nigeria, have been here from the time of creation. It is the federal government that is a new invention by the British. It's an artificial creation. The peoples are natural entities who created, the federal government. It's not the other way around, that we had the federal government that created us. No. So residual powers must stay at the regional level, at the state level. And in the true spirit of, in America, presidential elections are held in accordance with state laws on elections. And those laws vary from state to state, even in electing the president. There is no central INEC in America. That is why the vice president, Mike Pence, had to announce the results from all the states. Although Donald Trump thought he had the power to veto those results. It's because there was no central electoral organization that the vice president had to coordinate and announce it. That is how decentralized America, the true federation, is. Can you imagine that happening here? To have presidential election based on state elections? So that is where we must face. That is kind of ideal we work towards. That's what will give us the considerable autonomy that we want and we need.
Chief, do you think the Southwest political leaders, governors, and traditional rulers have done enough in ensuring the security of their subjects and citizens? In these instances of obvious provocations of kidnapping, raping, killing their subjects and citizens, and destroying their farms and property?
No, certainly not. All of us have to do much more than we've been able to do. That's the truth of the matter. But I've always believed that security is a local matter. But you need encouragement. For example, I'm the Ulu of Iluabo. Iluabo has a territory, about 2 miles by 8 kilometers. My responsibility with the police unit there to ensure that no strangers hang around anywhere in that area. So if all traditional leaders and political leaders in each area ensure that, then Nigeria will be secure. I'm not saying there's no duty for the central authority, but at the basic truth is that it is at the local level that you ensure security. If this compound is secure, and all compounds in Akure are secure, then Akure is secure. So there's a lot that individual leaders need to do to secure their own environment, with the encouragement and help of those people you mentioned, the traditional rulers, the government, but the individual themselves must be security. We are not security conscious because we have been secure for a very long time. For example, I tell people my life summarizes Nigeria's security history. At the age of age 14, I started going to Lagos to attend the Igbobi College by myself. I would go from Akure in a truck to Lagos. At the end of the term, I would return to Akure by myself. I did that for 5 years. Nothing happened to me, no kidnapping, no problem. But at 77, I was kidnapped on my own farm here in Akure. That summarizes the issue. In the past, it was absolutely secure and peaceful. Today, nowhere is secure. So we need to do much more than we are doing. I want to mention with some gratitude the contribution of Governor of Ondo State, Arakuni Akeredolu, for spearheading the formation of Amotekun. Others wavered, but he remained steadfast. And because he felt the security of his people is his greatest responsibility. Since Amotekun came and the anti-grazing law farm was promulgated, let me tell you, the herdsmen and their cattle, I would say 90% of them have left the state. I know because I go to the farm every day. I have not seen a single herdsman or cattle on the way to or from my farm for the past 8 months. Not one. So,
what do you think the solution is, sir? And your advice to these leaders?
All the traditional rulers also perform their own role of mobilizing their people to ensure their own security. We need to do much more, but a lot has been done. Well, what we can do is to strengthen Amotekun, give them more vehicles. Oyo State, I read in the paper, gave hundreds of vehicles to Amotekun recently. That's the way to go. And equipment, communications and defense equipment, to be able to monitor what is happening around the state and to rapidly react to any threat to security. Those are modern equipment that are necessary. I hope the state governments will give those to Amotekun. Amotekun is a security outfit that has the power to arrest and detain. And they're arresting cows and their owners here. Those are police functions, as I've said earlier. And they need to be tried. They can either try them themselves or send them to the Ministry of Justice, where state power will also be used to try them. So that's where we are. If other state governors in the Southwest do in their states what Arakuni Akeredolu has done here, I think Yoruba land will be better secured than it is now. The other day I was going to Ibadan to Lagos. I saw cows and herdsmen along the road. They look very strange to me because I have not seen such sights for almost a year. So that tells me that the anti-grazing law has not been as effective in those areas as they have been here. So that's an area we can tighten up. Anti-grazing law should be enforced. And those who want to ranch go into ranching. Ranching is the answer. And ranching is profitable business which should be done by private people. Government has no business in ranching at all.
Now that President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is winding down, we're in one of the most important political seasons in our country, with all the political party primaries concluded, with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and Obi emerging as the presidential candidates of APC, PDP, and the Labour Party, respectively. Do you think the elections will hold with the threats of Yoruba Nation and IPOB agitators threatening to ensure that it doesn't?
Yes. Well, first of all, I hope the terrorists, the bandits, the Boko Haram, and the ISWAP, and allied criminal gangs will allow an election to take place. That's number one. And if the election is going to take place, then we have a chance. The so-called big parties have shown their hand. They've chosen their presidential candidates, and their people we know very well. Two old friends. They are friends, and both of them are friends of mine as well. But the salvation lies in a different direction. You see, the big parties, what they have, apart from money, is what I call control of the political establishment. What do I mean by that? I mean the people who reside in every unit, in every ward, in every local government, who are members of these big parties, who have been beneficiaries of their patronage as either councillors, or chairman, or commissioner, or minister, or ambassador, or contractor, who have made money through these parties, who are therefore fiercely loyal to them because of future patronage. They are the ones who rig elections, who make change difficult. But fortunately, we have a large number of voters, mainly young people, who outnumber the people I've talked about. You heard about 20 million unclaimed voters' cards. I believe those are made up largely of young people who are frustrated, who don't feel they belong. If someone can mobilize the youth and succeed in making them see their future in terms of what that person is going to do, they can spring a surprise and produce a president who does not look like Tinubu or Atiku. I don't know who that may be, but just an idea I have. There must be some person somewhere who could mobilize all these people, gather all the frustrated people who are in the majority, and get them to vote for his agenda of giving Nigeria a new lease of life, in which the youth will have a future. If they can get it to fever pitch, as we had at the time of Abiola, if anybody in the Southwest in Abiola's time said, who is Abiola, he'll be lynched. During Babajashin's time in Ondo State, when they rigged this election, there was a spontaneous reaction by the people against that. NSAS experience showed us what the youth can do when they believe that their future was at stake. So that's what I'm talking about. We can mobilize people to that level. Let them see and believe in what we are preaching. The rest is in their hands. They will push the establishment aside and elect a government of their own choice. And they are more than the establishment. I'm not saying it is easy, but I'm saying it's a possibility. If we are able to elect a president or a government that sincerely and genuinely believes that Nigeria must have a new lease of life through restructuring and a new constitution and decentralization and devolution of powers, responsibilities, and resources, not only to state but to local governments, then we'll have a chance. That is the chance I see, but it's subject to the terrorists allowing us to have an election.
Thank you very much, sir, for your important and needed views on this issue. Ladies and gentlemen, see you after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back to Matters Arising with Dada. And we have here as our guest, bearing his mind, his wisdom with us, Chief Falae. Thank you so much, sir. What is your prediction of the outcome between these three front-running presidential candidates?
Well, I said earlier that if the election is going to hold, that we have an option in mobilization of the youths and the frustrated people. Many of them have not collected their voters' cards. But you just mentioned reasons why it may not hold. The ethnic nationalities who are insisting, IPOB and Yoruba Nation. But to me, more potent than those you mentioned are the terrorist organizations who are also jostling for power. If there's a power vacuum in Nigeria today, I will not be surprised if some people set up some Islamic republic somewhere. They too are jostling for power. It's not just the ethnic groups, the terrorists. So those who may make election difficult or impossible are many. That's why I said we hope there be an election that will be acceptable, that will meet the canons of free and fair and acceptable elections. I don't know what's going to happen. Somebody was saying, in my opinion, which candidate do I think ought to win? Well, that is a difficult one for me. First, I'm not sure there'll be an election. Two, I don't know.
During the APC primaries campaign, as soon as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo declared his intentions to run, Asiwaju supporters became very vociferous in their condemnation of his declaration, labeling him a betrayer. Millions of Nigerians, however, disagreed with this deed, arguing that Pastor Yemi Osinbajo was within his rights to run for the highest office in the land, an opportunity that comes to a handful of individuals once in their lifetime, just like Asiwaju himself. Some even went as far as saying that Asiwaju himself stabbed Afenifere, the revered Yoruba leaders group, in the back in his political surgery. What do you have to say about this?
The decision to run for public office is an individual decision based on reasons known to that individual. So, since I don't know the reasons why Oluyemi Osinbajo, by the way, we share the same first name, Oluyemi. I don't know his reasons for deciding to run. They may be more powerful than any sense of gratitude to former governor who made him Attorney General of his government. That's what people are referring to, that he made him. So it should be, because of that, he should forego his chance to run for president. The reasons on which he based his decision may be stronger than that sense of gratitude. I don't know. However, all I know is that some of us were privileged to have been part of the process that brought Tinubu to where he is today. When he was going to run for governor in Lagos State, he had a contest with late Funsho Williams. There's a disagreement as to who won. And at some point, when I discovered our party in Lagos was in crisis, I had to travel to Lagos and obtain Papa Adesonya's permission to intervene in the crisis. And I called both Funsho Williams and Bola Tinubu to my house in Victoria Island. And I was able to get Funsho Williams to step down for Bola Tinubu because although Funsho was more popular at the time and had more resources at the time, but because our leader, Papa Adesonya, had already publicly presented Bola Tinubu as our candidate, I felt it to be humiliating for us to do otherwise. Considering in particular that Papa Joseph was a leader during the Nadeko struggle, when he was shot at 9 times without being hit, and when his children as him being killed, and Papa said the struggle had just started, and he led us on to achieve victory. I felt such a man should not be humiliated by repudiating the choice he had made. That's why I persuaded Funsho Williams to step down for Bola Tinubu, and he agreed. He didn't just agree. When his supporters in my house, in my sitting room, said, all right, we are going to share cabinet positions, Funsho said, no, I promise our leader, that's myself, that I will support Bola unconditionally. That's a gentleman. And he stuck to that. And when we came out of the meeting, hundreds of pressmen, cameramen were gathered in front of my house, awaiting the outcome of the meeting. And they then asked me, who is going to be governorship candidate in Lagos? I said, ask Funsho. And Funsho Williams said, Bola Tinubu. So why? He said, that is what we have decided. So what I'm saying is that some of us played a role as Afenifere leaders in his emergence. But it's unfortunate that later he instigated the formation of what they call Afenifere renewal to rival the Afenifere to which we belong. That's what we may be referring to. It was unfortunate. But since that action was not well grounded, it has fizzled out. Afenifere remains Afenifere Opemeji. And it's not just the name. Afenifere is defined by the readiness of its leadership to defend the Yoruba race, to suffer for the Yoruba race, and to look for no reward for doing so. So those of us who are able to do that are the leaders of Afenifere. You can call another group by the same name, but if they don't have those attributes, they will not be Afenifere. When I was 80, 4 years ago, I was interviewed by a cheeky journalist. He says, sir, you claim that Afenifere is the father of the Yoruba nation. Who voted for Afenifere to be leader or father of the Yoruba nation? I asked him, who voted for your father to be your father? I said, if all your father did was to sleep with your mother to produce you, he didn't bring you up, he didn't train you, did not feed you, did not support you, did not defend you, you will not recognize him as your father. Yes, that's the man they call my father. You have no emotional attachment to him because he failed his duties by supporting the Yoruba people at all times, defending their interests, suffering for it. We have earned the fatherhood of the Yoruba nation. We earn it. But it's not voted for you, you earn it. With blood. At times some of us have been killed. I spent 2 years in detention. For the principal stand we took over Nadeko, over Abiola's election. So that's how we earned the fatherhood. Just your father earned fatherhood by looking after you, by nurturing you. He came to my house later to apologize to me. He was a cheeky young man who thought he was going to embarrass me and embarrass Afenifere. That's what we are. It's a heartfelt thing. It's not something we're doing for fun. We are Yoruba. We respect other people. We must be respected. If you don't disrespect us, then we disrespect you. We confront you until you respect us. That's what we are. So, I want to assure our people that whatever happens, we are totally committed to the welfare of our. But we also recognize that there are other peoples in Nigeria who deserve the same things as we deserve. That is, you see, when we were going to the national conference in 2014, we took a document that the Yoruba agenda. I gave it to an able friend to read. After reading, he said, change the title, The Nigerian Agenda. I said, there's nothing uniquely Yoruba in what is in this document. What all the things we are advocating, that's things that every part of Nigeria needs. That is what we are. That's what our civilization has made us to be. We think of ourselves, we worry about others as well.
Sir, before we leave, may I indulge you in asking this question? What is your advice for the youth of this country who are frustrated with the emergence, as they put it, of the same old money bags that have contributed immensely to the destruction of the country and of their future?
I mentioned something earlier. I'll go back to it. I said, the hope I have is that there will be a candidate who will be able to reach out to the youths, persuade them, convince them that they can effectively represent their interest in government and mobilize them to re-engage in the political process. Many of them have refused to re-engage. And I said, those 20 million PVC cards belong to them. If a candidate emerges, it's not three parties that will contest the election, not just PDP, APC, and Labour. There are maybe 4 or 5 others, or 6 or 7. If one of those can reach out to the youths and mobilize them, they can win the election. Because those who are not voting are far more than those who are voting. So that is where, so the youths, if they can, like they mobilize themselves for NSAS, can mobilize themselves for a candidate whom they believe will reintegrate them into the society. Now they feel they are not part of it. If you left university 3 years ago, you have no employment, you can't get married, you have no accommodation of your own, you have no car. Are you part of society? So if somebody is able to convince them that under his leadership, all that will be done, I believe it's possible for such a candidate to win election.
Thank you for accepting our invitation and for being the first guest on this show, Matters Arising with Dada. Thank you so much, sir, for finding the time out of your busy schedule to grant us this interview. Your voice is weighty, revered, and forever respected. As a statesman, an Afenifere elder, and a stalwart, a Yoruba elder, a Nigerian patriot, Nigerians appreciate you very much, sir, as your experience and wise counsel is always appreciated. We thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on this show. I am your host, Dada of Matters Arising Network. See you next time. Cheerios.